All right, today we're jumping into one of the most intense, just chaotic turning points in Jean Rhys's wide Sargasso Sea. We're going to break down the absolutely tragic collapse of a marriage and see how one desperate act basically sets the whole world on fire.
So here's how we're going to walk through this disaster. We'll start with a potion that goes horribly wrong, then we'll see Rochester's revenge, the Ten's homecoming, what looks like a descent into madness, and finally how money traps everyone. It's a lot.
Okay, so everything, and I mean everything, kicks off from one single moment. Antoinette feels her husband, Rochester, just pulling away from her, right? So she gets desperate. She goes to Christophine for a Caribbean love potion to try and win him back. And, well, it backfires. Big time.
So you have to ask yourself, right? Can a love potion actually create hate? Because that's the devastating irony here. This thing that was supposed to bring them closer, it does the exact opposite. It becomes the trigger for this deep, solid hatred in Rochester, confirming all his worst fears and prejudices about Antoinette and where she comes from.
And his reaction is intense. He thinks he's been poisoned, so he's violently sick all day long. But you have to see this as more than just a physical reaction. It's like he's literally purging himself with Antoinette. Every bit of compassion or connection he might have had for her, it's all coming up, and he's getting rid of it for good.
Now, what's really interesting is how this whole thing connects back to something Antoinette said earlier. She has this dark theory, this idea of two deaths. You know, there's the one where you actually die, and then there's the one where people just decide you're already gone, where they erase you.
And this is where it gets really chilling. Rochester basically brings about her first death right here. He sees her smiling in her sleep, and what does he do? He covers her face with a torn sheet, just like you would a corpse. It's his way of saying, you're already dead to me. The woman he married? Gone. He's killed her in his own mind.
So all of this simmering anger and resentment, it's about to boil over. And we're moving past just simple anger now. This next part is about calculated cruelty. It's about making her hurt.
It all starts with the servant, Amelie. She brings him some food and wine, and at first, it's this weirdly tender moment. She's almost cradling him like a child. But Rochester, he takes that moment of comfort and just twists it into something ugly. He turns it into a weapon.
And here's the absolute key to understanding this. This isn't some secret affair he's trying to hide. No way. It's a performance. He knows, he is fully aware that Antoinette is in the very next room and that she can hear everything through the thin wall. He wants her to hear it. This whole thing is designed from start to finish to completely and utterly destroy her.
Okay, so after that, what can you even do? A completely shattered Antoinette just flees. She gets on a horse and disappears. But her being gone doesn't calm things down. If anything, it just lets all that tension back at their home, Grambois, fester and get even worse.
She's gone for 3 whole days. And during that time, Rochester is just stewing in this house, totally alone, except for the servants, who are now openly hostile to him. They're cold, they're defiant. His isolation is absolute.
So when she finally comes back, you might think there'd be a confrontation, a fight, but no. This isn't about making up. This is the start of the final battle. She just walks right past him, doesn't say a single word, goes into a room and barricades the door. And that silence, it's way more terrifying than any shouting match could ever be.
And this is where it all goes off the rails. Because in this final confrontation, Antoinette starts to become the very thing Rochester has been told to fear. She starts to look and act like the mad woman from his prejudiced imagination. It's like a prophecy fulfilling itself right before his eyes.
When she finally opens that door, she's different. Her appearance is just described as crazed and unkempt. The outside finally matches the absolute storm of rage and pain that's been happening on the inside. It's like her body has finally caught up with all the psychological torture.
And then their fight goes from psychological to physical. He grabs her arm, and she just sinks her teeth into it. She bites him. It's this shocking, primal act. All the pretense is gone. Their conflict is now just a raw physical struggle.
And this is the real tragedy of it all, isn't it? Look at what she's become. Ferocious, wild-eyed, cursing him, threatening him with a broken bottle, just like her mother. She has become the perfect embodiment of the wild Caribbean woman stereotype he was so afraid of. She's literally playing the part that his prejudice wrote for her. But to really get why this all fell apart so completely, we have to look at the power dynamics.
And what's the ultimate source of power in their world? It's money. And we're about to see how money can be a key to freedom for one person and the bars of a cage for another.
I mean, just look at the difference here. For Emily, the servant, the money she gets from Rochester is her ticket out. She's off to start a new life in Rio. It's freedom. But for Antoinette, her own money, her inheritance, the whole reason Rochester married her in the first place, that's what traps her. Because of the laws back then, he controls it all. She is literally his financial captive.
So, back at Grandpoix, in her own home, she does have this one last little bit of power, right? She can lock him out. By barricading that door, she's the one in control of the space.
But, and this is such a chilling bit of foreshadowing, that power dynamic is about to be completely and brutally flipped. Because soon, they'll be in England. And there, he will be the one who locks the door. Only he's not just locking her out of a room, he's going to lock her in an attic forever. And that leaves us with this one big, haunting question to chew on. Is Antoinette's madness just a convenient label that Rochester slaps on her so he can control her? Or is it something she's driven to claim for herself? When you have absolutely no power left, is becoming this wild, uncontrollable person the only way you can have any say in your own life? It's that question, really, that makes this story stick with you long after you've finished.
Today, we are diving deep into one of the most electric scenes in Jean Rhys's masterpiece, Wide Sargasso Sea. Seriously, it is such a raw, powerful confrontation that just rips open the novel's deepest wounds: colonialism, gender, and the deliberate unraveling of a mind. So, let's get into it.
Here's how we're going to break this all down. First, we'll look at the explosive accusations. Then, we'll analyze the colonial power dynamics at play. After that, we'll explore the psychological warfare, witness a really cold-hearted decision, and finally, see how a simple drawing seals a tragic fate.
All right, so the scene kicks off with two people locked in this incredible battle of wills. You've got Christophine, Antoinette's fiercely loyal nurse, and a woman with some serious authority. And on the other side, there's Rochester, Antoinette's English husband. The accusation? That he and he alone is responsible for his wife's complete mental break.
And Christophine's attack is just surgical in its precision. She lays it all out. You married Antoinette for her money, not for love. You tricked her into loving you, and then you used sex to control her. You made sure she overheard your affair with the servant Amélie just to hurt her, and you called her cruel names like Bertha and Marionette, specifically to break her spirit. You know what the most damning part is? Rochester just stands there and silently admits to every single thing.
But this whole thing builds into something so much bigger, because this isn't just some domestic dispute. Nope, it's a full-on collision of worlds. This confrontation puts what Rochester sees as his rational, masculine English culture right up against the vibrant, feminine world of the Caribbean that Christophine represents.
So on paper, you'd think the power dynamic is obvious, right? Wealthy, white, English man versus a black servant woman. But Rhys just completely flips that colonial script on its head. Christophine is not subservient at all. She is authoritative. She doesn't ask, she demands. And in that room, she becomes his judge, and he's the one on trial.
I mean, Christophine just shatters every single colonial taboo. A black woman is holding a white man accountable for his actions, actions that men like him have gotten away with for generations. The privilege he has from his race and his manhood, it completely fails him here. She pretty much emasculates him, challenging the very foundation of the power that he has always taken for granted.
And this whole power struggle, it ties right back into how Rochester treats Antoinette. Christophine's accusations actually give us a name for his strategy. It's psychological destruction.
Listen to this quote from Christophine. It is just devastatingly direct. Rochester's goal wasn't just to control Antoinette. It was to literally shatter her sense of self, to break her into pieces. This isn't an accident. It's a conscious, deliberate act of cruelty.
So how does he do it? Well, look at these names. By calling her Bertha, he's stripping away her real name, her actual history. By calling her Marionette, he's reducing her to a puppet, just a thing he can pull the strings on. These aren't just insults, they are weapons, specifically designed to break her identity and assert his total control.
But here's the beautiful irony of this whole scene. As Christophine is listing off all his crimes, Rochester is left completely speechless. He can only repeat her words silently to himself. The master manipulator becomes the puppet,
In this moment, Christophine silences him, turning him into the very same speechless marionette he tried to make his wife.
Okay, so this is where things take a really tragic turn. After completely exposing Rochester, Christophine makes one last desperate plea for just basic human decency, but his mind is already made up.
And what she offers him is, well, it's incredibly fair, right? She begs him to just try loving his wife. But if he can't, she gives him an out. Give back half of Antoinette's money and just leave her with Christophine, where she can finally be safe. It's his chance to just walk away without doing any more damage.
But Rochester's response? It's just cold. It's calculated. And it's absolutely brutal. He completely rejects that plea for humanity, and instead he doubles down on his societal power. He threatens Christophine, a woman who is totally powerless in the eyes of the law. He threatens to call the police, and then he makes his final chilling decision. He's not going to leave Antoinette. He's going to have her declared legally insane.
And Christophine's reaction, you can just feel the fury and the despair. She spits on the floor because she knows exactly what this means. She sees the future with this terrifying clarity. He's going to use the so-called rational English doctors to just rubber stamp his cruelty and lock Antoinette away forever, repeating the exact same tragic fate that happened to Antoinette's own mother.
So, after this bombshell of a confrontation, Rochester's all by himself. And what happens next reveals this chilling gap between his controlled, proper exterior and the dark plan that's forming in his subconscious.
He picks up a pen and starts writing a letter home. On the surface, it is all prim and proper English decorum. The tone is formal, restrained, not a hint of the rage or humiliation or resentment that's churning inside him. He puts that mask of control right back on.
But then, something else starts to happen. His hand, it just keeps moving. While his conscious mind is composing this formal letter, his unconscious mind starts to doodle. It's a simple, almost childlike sketch. A house, a couple of trees. It seems totally innocent, maybe even random.
But then the final detail emerges. In that house, there's a stick figure woman trapped, looking out from a window. Now, for anyone who's read Jane Eyre, a cold dread starts to set in. You realize this is not a random doodle. This is a premonition.
His subconscious has just drawn a blueprint. It's the attic in Thornfield Hall. It's the fate he has just decided for Antoinette. His own hand has spelled out the future he is about to build, transforming her from a living, breathing woman into the infamous madwoman in the attic.
And all of this leaves us with a really haunting question. This scene shows us in brutal detail how one person's voice can be systematically silenced, their identity erased, and their entire story rewritten by someone else. It forced us to ask, what really happens when one person holds all the power to define another's reality?
Welcome to The Explainer. You know, sometimes the end of a relationship isn't some big dramatic fight. Sometimes it's a quiet, chilling unraveling. And that is exactly the pivotal moment we're diving into today, from Jean Rhys' incredible novel, Wide Sargasso Sea.
Okay, so let's jump right in. To really get this, we have to start by getting inside the head of the man who's pulling all the strings here, Rochester. He's about to leave the Caribbean, and his mindset is, well, it's pretty dark.
So picture this. It's one of those cool, cloudy days that feels like a hurricane is just waiting on the horizon. And Rochester is just stewing, thinking about his life. He feels he's been trapped, married to a drunken, lying lunatic. I mean, wow. He actually wonders if anyone feels sorry for him in all this, completely casting himself as the victim.
And you gotta understand, his goal here has nothing to do with love or trying to fix their marriage. No way. This is about control. It's about punishment. He wants to hurt her by ripping her away from the only world she loves, the island that is a part of her. He's already booked their passage to England with this one cruel purpose in mind, to make her his mad one.
Okay, so that's his twisted plan. Now let's flip the script and look at Antoinette. Let's see the absolutely devastating effect of Rochester's psychological warfare.
On the day they're set to leave, the change in her is just staggering. Look at this comparison. The woman he met was so alive, so connected to her home, singing island songs, telling local stories. But the woman he's leaving with? She's like a ghost of her former self. Completely indifferent, silent, just gone. There's nothing left but an empty shell.
And this gets to the heart of it. This idea of two deaths. It's a horrifying concept, right? Her body is still alive, sure, but her spirit, her identity, the very essence of who she is, that has been killed. Rochester's cruelty has been so relentless that he's completely hollowed her out. She's become a living corpse.
And here's the truly chilling part. This wasn't an accident. He actively willed this to happen. The text describes this moment where he looks into her eyes and sees one last flicker of hatred, and he just stares at her and stares until that last little spark of defiance is gone and her eyes are just blank and lifeless. It's as if he's using his own force of will to literally snuff out her soul.
But his need for control, it doesn't just stop with Antoinette. Oh no, it's so intense that it actually spills out and begins to warp the very world around him.
Get this. He starts repeating the words, no sun, almost like an incantation. He's commanding the bright, brazen tropical sun to just go away. And the crazy thing is, it's like the world actually obeys him. The landscape turns cool and gray. He's literally forcing his cold, English reality onto the vibrant Caribbean.
So you can really see his whole twisted strategy here in 3 clear steps. First, you conquer the environment. Make the sun disappear. Second, you conquer the soul. Stare the life right out of her eyes. And the final step, you conquer the body by physically uprooting her from the only home she's ever known.
And this is such a powerful way to think about it. The analysis basically says Antoinette is the land. She's like a tropical tree, deeply rooted in her home soil. And Rochester? He's the hurricane. He's the brutal wind that just blows in, breaks her, and severs her connection to everything that gives her life. Now, as they're getting ready to leave, a small thing happens. But this little moment, it just blows the lid off the massive emotional and cultural canyon that separates Rochester from this world he thinks he owns. So there's this young boy there, and all of a sudden he just breaks down, sobbing. Just this raw, overwhelming burst of emotion. And Rochester's reaction? He physically recoils from it. He's completely baffled. He can't process this feeling, can't understand it, and has no idea how to even ask the child what's wrong. Antoinette, completely numb, just explains that the boy loves Rochester because she had promised the boy, in Rochester's name, that he would never leave. Well, this just sends Rochester into a rage. But the deeper issue here is his total inability to connect. The boy's genuine grief, his broken English. It's all just incomprehensible noise to a man so shut off from the world of real human feeling.
And here's the ultimate twisted irony. Her lack of emotion, the very emptiness that he meticulously created in her, he now points to that as the final proof that she's fully crazy. It's a vicious circle of his own making. He breaks her, then uses her brokenness to justify everything he's done.
And this brings us to it. Rochester's final, chilling decision as they set sail for England. This is the culmination of his entire project.
His plan is crystal clear now. It's not just about control anymore. It's about total erasure. He is anxious to get her to England, lock her away, and just wait. Wait for this living, breathing person to transform into something he can simply forget.
And that's the phrase from the text that just haunts you, isn't it? A memory to be avoided. That's all she will be to him, not a person, not a wife. Just an unpleasant thought to be pushed aside. It is the absolute ultimate expression of his cruelty, and the tragic fate we know is waiting for her in England.
So all of this leaves us with a really powerful question to think about. How much of who we are is tied not just to our personality, but to our place in the world? By forcibly ripping Antoinette from the landscape that was so intertwined with her spirit, did Rochester destroy just her happiness, or did he destroy her very self? Something to really chew on. That's all for this explainer.